Okay, well, good afternoon. My name is Mike Boyce. I'm the chairman of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners. And just like to briefly recognize some people that are joining us today. Against the wall here, of course, is Chief Mike Register, who's the Chief of Police for Cobb County. On my left is Sam Heaton, who's the Director of Public Safety. And sitting at the far right is Rob Hosack, the County Manager. And then to his right is Commissioner Lisa Cupid, who's the Commissioner for District 4 in Cobb County. And then next to her on her right is Mrs. Deanne Bonner, who is the president of the local chapter, the Cobb County chapter of the NAACP. And then to her right is Dr. Ben Williams, who is the president of the Cobb County Southern Conference Leadership Conference, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. I'd like to have a few brief introductory remarks, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to a Chief Register. Since my first day in office, I have touted Cobb County as a choice destination with a high quality of life where people can safely work, live, play, and pursue their dreams. However, two events which occurred last year, which just come to light in the last week, have cast a dark cloud over our commitment to provide public safety in a manner that is unbiased. We are not here to defend those actions. During lunch this week with Mrs. Bonner, I commented that while America has come a long way on our journey to protect civil rights for everyone in this country, we still have a long way to go. Not only is Cobb County, but America is watching today what we do to respond to these events. We move forward again on our journey by first acknowledging that we could have done better, much better in one case. Our future actions need to reflect that these are not just the same old story with a new cast of people, but a new cast of people that was put here at this exact time, at this exact place, to give legitimate credence that we as a county are committed to providing public safety for everyone, regardless of their creed, ethnicity, race, and in a manner that respects their dignity and recognizes their rights. Since entering office in January, I've been with our police department in nearly a dozen events, whether providing crowd control or doing ride-alongs. I've done 3 in the last 3 weeks. I've ridden with men and women who tirelessly protect us, and I want to say right up front here today, I could not be more proud of them. The actions of the officers in question do not diminish in any degree my confidence in these magnificent men and women. They continue to have my complete support. I continue to have their back, as I do for all our first responders. This particularly includes Chief Mike Register, who took over as police chief 3 months ago. He has already made his mark in improving training, leadership development, and communication between the ranks. He is here to address the issues head on in order that we can build an even better police department. And with that, I'll turn this conference over to Chief Register.
Thank you, sir. As the chairman said, I'm Mike Register, and I'm the current Chief of Police for the Cobb County Police Department. And I want to say that I'm very proud to lead this department and serve this community. I think this is a great department. This is a great community. But if you're thinking that I'm walking up here to make an excuse today about the comments that was heard on the video, you're wrong. I make no excuses for that. What was said, and we're going to deal with that. There's been a question about context in reference to the statements that were made. In my opinion, I feel that no matter what context you try to take those comments in, the statements were inexcusable and inappropriate. And they're not indicative of the values that I'm trying to instill within the Cobb County Police Department and that I believe the county holds. I worked hard since becoming the chief here since June to strengthen the relationship between the community and the police department. My staff's worked hard. The men and women who wear the Cobb County uniform has worked hard. And I think that we have done some great things here in the last few months. And it's sad to think that several seconds of video has the potential of tearing that apart. And I hope that is not the case. And another thing that makes me sad is that the men and women who work for this police department, they work tirelessly on a daily basis to serve this community in a selfless manner. And those comments that were seen on the video last night, again, they're not indicative of the culture that I'm trying to instill here. But those comments have now caused the men and women who are currently working on the street right now today to go out and attempt to regain the public trust that was lost by those comments. But not all is lost, however. We've got a great department, a great community, and we got great partners, like the chairman has already introduced, such as Dr. Ben Williams and Deanna Bonner. And there's other great leaders in here within the community that are willing to roll up their sleeves and work with me to ensure that the trust and respect between the community and the police will be maintained and even grow stronger. There's really no place for these types of comments in law enforcement, surely not in this department, law enforcement in general. This badge and this uniform should mean that there's justice and fairness for all. And that is certainly what we strive to do here in Cobb County for all our citizens, no matter what ethnicity, no matter what gender. I've known Lieutenant Abbott for a number of years, and I've always perceived him to be an honorable man, but he made a mistake. I don't know what's in his heart, but I certainly know what came out of his mouth, and it's inexcusable, and we have to take appropriate action. The recommendation is to terminate his employment from the Cobb County Police Department. And certainly there is a process that we will have to go through in order to do that, but we are certainly moving forward with that process. Do you have any questions?
What was the other incident that the Commission Chair was referring to? Was it the shooting we broadcast day before yesterday?
That, I think, that situation really boils down to a decision making by an officer, and we have certainly went back, myself, the command staff, and certainly the training staff, to ensure that when we are teaching use of force, that we certainly help officers with the training make good decisions out there when they're faced with like or similar circumstances.
What has Lieutenant Abbott told you about this?
Lieutenant Abbott has communicated through his chain of command. And certainly with me being the chief, and situation is as it currently stands, I communicate with Lieutenant Abbott through his chain.
But was he saying it was he was being facetious? It was a joke? Did he say anything?
The report that I've read in reference to the internal review communicates that Lieutenant Abbott was attempting to use that type of dialogue from a sarcastic standpoint, and also as a tool to certainly address the situation as he perceived it at that time.
Do you buy that this was an attempt to de-escalate?
I've already said that in no context can I tolerate this type of language, and so I don't really think that we can sit here and justify any type of language when the verbiage is what we heard on that video.
Chief, this was roughly a year ago. Can you talk about how this came to light 13 months, roughly 13 months later, what it took to get it from that dash camera video to being in front of you and others? We
were notified by Channel 2, WSB. And as soon as we were notified, we took appropriate action by turning it over to our internal affairs and placing Lieutenant Abbott on administrative duties.
Chief, I'm sorry, I'm with the Atlanta Journal.
Yes, sir.
Could you repeat when you found out what date that was?
That was Friday,
Friday.
this
So
past Friday.
was the first time you found out
And then certainly we had to get a copy of the tape verify what was said, and then we took appropriate action at that time.
One more question. This happened July 10th, 2016,
Yes, sir.
which was 4 days after Orlando Castillo was killed in Minneapolis. That kind of brings about this whole thing about what was going on in the country at that time. What do you say about that atmosphere? What was going on in the country and how that may have seeped into your department at that time? I know you weren't the chief, but that seems like he said something at an inappropriate comment at an inappropriate time, obviously.
Well, certainly he did, and that's why we're here today. And I think that everyone here understands the very precious nature of the relationship between the community and police, and we can't do anything to jeopardize that relationship. And certainly, I think I have, as a chief, now in Cobb County and previously in Clayton County, to work very hard to make sure that we establish the strongest partnership and relationship that we possibly can.
Has Lieutenant Abbott been served with a notice of proposed termination?
He was notified earlier today.
Did he indicate whether he would appeal?
I don't have that information.
Is he then off payroll as of this point?
Yes, sir.
Chief, when you came into the department, you talked about the importance of wanting to address this report that said that while there have been little evidence found of any racism among the department, there was a public perception that the Cobb County Police Department deals with racism. How does this now does that throw a wrench into your goal?
Well, certainly I think it gives credibility to that perception. And as I said previously, if there's a perception, that's important, because perception is reality, and we're going to address those perceptions. And I think we have attempted to do that in the 3 months that I have been the chief here, and we'll continue to do it.
What have Dr. Williams and Ms. Bonner told you about the reaction to this and their support, if that's what it is, for your initiatives to address this and perceptions in the community?
I can't speak for Dr. Williams and Ms. Bonner, but I can tell you that I am very proud to have what I believe is a very positive relationship with both Ms. Bonner and Dr. Williams, and we dialogue and communicate frequently, and I certainly look to them to continue to assist me in addressing some issues within the department and to help me bolster that relationship that is precious with the community.
Have you had a conversation with the woman in the car who Lieutenant Abbott had that conversation with?
No, ma'am.
From after you watch the video, do you think it was frustration or to de-escalate?
I think it was inappropriate.
Should this have come to light sooner?
Well, you're asking a question that's hard to answer. We have mechanisms in place where we review videos. Certainly we can't review every minute of every video. That's a tremendous amount. But we will certainly relook our policies to see if we can do a better job of catching something or uncovering something that is in the videos. Certainly when the supervisors review videos, they're looking for certain things. One, operational nuances, how the officer was operating in a safe manner and his tactics. And also, is the officer operating the body cam and in-car video within policy? And certainly we look at the video too from a professionalism standpoint.
Is Lieutenant Abbott the person who would have been reviewing videos in that regard for that unit?
He's a supervisor, he's a lieutenant, he would have.
The fact is, the lieutenant, what does that tell you?
Well, it certainly makes me understand that when we talk about professional development and leadership, and that's one of my priorities here at the police department, it certainly reinforces the need for good, positive leadership out in the field.
What kind of record did Lieutenant Abbott have?
As I said before, Lieutenant Abbott, I've known him for many years. I perceived him to be an honorable man. He doesn't have a disciplinary history pertaining to this type of conduct.
As you go forward trying to send this message to other police officers who encounter motorists, how do you adjust that message so that they take it seriously, and to what extent does Lieutenant Abbott's proposed firing help send that message?
Could you say that one more time, sir?
How do you send the message that you're trying to send to the troops in the field who might be on patrol and pull folks over, and to what extent does firing Lieutenant Abbott help you send that message?
Well, I think how we're addressing this sends a message that this type of conduct and verbiage won't be tolerated within the Cobb County Police Department. And as far as sending the message, we are doing that in many ways. We're doing it from a leadership perspective. We're also doing it from a training perspective. And certainly we have done several things within the police department over the last 2.5 months. We've revisited our mission statement, our vision statement. We've developed 6 core values of the Cobb County Police Department, and also developed tenets of conduct that hang in each precinct in each unit. So let there be no mistake that any officer who engages in this type of conduct knows that that is not the culture that we're trying to instill here at the Cobb County Police Department, or again, not indicative of the culture that we have in Cobb County and as a whole.
So going back to the reviewing of the videotape, since, as you said, in this case, the lieutenant would have been the one reviewing that, will there be changes made so that somebody else's eyes are on the lieutenant or the manager, the supervisor in charge?
We will certainly relook those policies. Every time that we uncover an issue such as this, we certainly as a command staff go back and re-examine what we are doing, the causative factors, if we can identify them, and then we make adjustments so the same mistakes won't happen again.
How difficult or easy was this decision for you to fire him?
Well, it was both easy and difficult. Difficult because I've known Lieutenant Abbott for quite a while and I respect him. So that's difficult. The man has a family and he's a human being. Easy, on the other hand, when you look at it from just a chief standpoint and what he is trying to accomplish with his police force and what that police force should stand for. When I first saw the comments, as I've stated, it's really very hard to put those statements into any type of context that would make them appropriate. But I will say this, we don't take decisions like this lightly. Yeah, I've known Lieutenant Abbott, but with any officer under my command, when we impose discipline, we look at many factors. And certainly the personal factor. I mean, you are not only impacting him, but you're impacting his family. And I try to take 3 things into consideration: what's good for the officer, what's good for the community, and what's good for the department. And we try to make the best decision that we possibly can. And I think that's what we have done in this case. And I wish Lieutenant Abbott well in the future. He made a mistake. He was a lieutenant, over 25 years experience. As you go back to your previous question, in this particular environment with the sensitivities running high, I think that that was very inappropriate for any police officer to say that, but especially one of our leaders within the department.
An event like this can have an impact on morale or atmosphere within the department. What impact do you believe this might have on your officers?
Hopefully a positive impact. I think that the men and women who wear this uniform and this badge, I think they all agree that this is inappropriate behavior. And I think that they would expect their chief, the command staff, and the county to take appropriate action. And I certainly think the community would.
Does this underscore the importance of dash cams and body cams?
I think it validates what I've always said, that the body cam not only protects the officer, but it protects the citizens too, because it gives us a factual representation of what is transpiring with the citizen police contact. Now certainly, we don't always see what the officer sees, we see what the camera sees, but in this case, I think the audio is what speaks volumes.
It's my understanding that about half the officers have body cams at this point?
Currently, we have about 253 body cams in the field. And also we have in-car cameras also in the field. We are currently expecting another 100 body cams probably within the next 45 days to be fielded, and I think that's very important.
How close would that get to equipping all uniformed officers and just personnel across the department?
I think that we're still going to be somewhere around 50 to 100 short, but we're already working with DPS and our IS department in trying to rectify that.
All right, Chief. All right. I think Commissioner Cupid would like to make a comment.
Commissioner, you.
Good afternoon. I'm here to support our county chairman, our police chief, our officers, and most significantly, our citizens here in Cobb County. The events that have unfolded are certainly unfortunate, but if there's any silver lining, it's been the apt response of our leadership here in Cobb County to signify that these type of statements, nor any activity that produces bias in policing for any of our citizens is not going to be tolerated. And that's significant judging where we have been in the past and where our country is today. For our leaders who are here today representing different organizations, I want you to know that your actions have been worthwhile and that we hope that you continue to work with all of our leaders here in Cobb County and our police officers to create the environment that we know we all can enjoy here in our county. And to our officers, I want you to know that the actions that were observed are not reflective of what I've seen and what I know the values that many of our officers espouse here in Cobb County. And it's unfortunate that this took place in light of all of the positive activity that we've been undertaking to ameliorate some of the challenges that we've had. But all of that is not lost here today too, because as we've done a lot with programming, our chief has spoken to the opportunity to address policy when incidents like this occur. And that can only strengthen the confidence that our public has in our officers. So I hope that we can look at this unfortunate event and see that there can be a positive path forward for our community and for our officers and for our leadership here in Cobb. That's all my comments.
Thank you.
And Dr. Williams? Mr. Bonner?
Well,
You want to go to the other? Okay.
no, we are a team. Okay. And we function as a team. Ms. Bonner, go ahead, please go ahead.
The Cobb County Branch NAACP applaud the leadership of Chairman Boyce and Chief Register in calling us about the breaking news that we witnessed yesterday on Channel 2. We believe in the officers' right to due process, and we were saying that we would hold our opinion on that till after it was received. And since the chief have already said that that is something that we certainly accept and are glad that he took those steps to do that. Although we applaud them for their transparency in this regard, the officer interjection of race into the stop was particularly troubling and may be systematic of the deeper issue in the department. One of the things that we, the Cobb NAACP, will be doing is asking for a EEO4 report from Cobb County.
Thank you, Ms. Bonner. Police officers' misconduct is not news. And I would hope that those of you who represent news organizations would respond as if you are well aware of that. Police misconduct is not news. The real story here, in my opinion, is the behavior of this police chief in Cobb County, Georgia. That's the real story. That is the real story. Those of us who have been working as advocates in this community are well aware of police misconduct. Many of you in this room have covered it from a number of angles. But to be here today and to stand with Chief Register as he pulls the shades up
Tell it.
and exposes the sunrise here in Cobb County as that pertains to the conduct of the Cobb County Police Department. That's the news. And if you fail to delve deeply into that, you will be missing the story and simply just reprinting history as opposed to news. And that's the challenge that you ought to undertake. How is it that you sort out the real story and simply, as opposed to focusing in on one more example of police misconduct? So I would hope that when I pick up my paper tomorrow, when I get on the news tonight, that you run past what the real story is and attempt to simply add more, fodder to what most of us already know. There will be other instances of police misconduct. But we have hope here in Cobb that we have a chief and leadership that is serious about bringing this department to be one of the better ones in the nation. So we stand here supporting this chief because in my mind, and hopefully in our minds, he has made a substantial deposit on the promissory note that he made with us when he came in here. Transparency, integrity, and making the hard decisions that come with trying to change an organizational culture. Thank you.
And with that, I call this press conference to a close.